Hey homies, this is chapter 11 ABC. We're just going to look at a couple of problems. I'm going to look at page 262. We're going to check out 6E and G, and also we're going to look at 7B, and also the example 7, just for clarification, okay? So let's start here, right, 6E and G. So number 6 looks like this, E anyway. It's 2 sine of x plus pi thirds, and all that equals 1, and we're going from negative 3 pi to 3 pi. All right. Well, if you think about this guy, I know that this is going to be on some sort of unit circle like this, and I know that, well, let's clean this up first. Let's move this to this side, so this is going to end up being just a half. So I know whatever this is inside, whatever that is, the sine of that, so the sine of this angle, let's call it phi, that's got to be a half. And I know that occurs, well, let's see, at pi sixths. And I know that the sine is the same over here at 5 pi sixths. Right, so those are my home bases. So whatever this is, I know that's got to equal pi sixths or 5 pi sixths. All right, so we can write two things. You can say, all right, I know that x plus pi thirds, whatever that is, that's got to equal pi sixths or all that's got to equal 5 pi sixths. Right? Two things, two equations. We're going to go from there. Okay? So let's just look at one of them and solve one of them, because I want to try to find x. So if we solve for x here, we are going to make this 2 pi 6, then you subtract, this ends up being negative pi 6. You do the same over here. This ends up being 3 pi sixths, which is pi halves. If you need to pause me and do a little number crunching, that's fine. But what that's saying is, with this one, if we're starting at negative pi halves, if our number here is negative pi halves and we add pi thirds to it, we add this pi thirds. So we're adding pi thirds. We should get to this site, which gives us a sine of a half. Okay? And then same thing over here. If we take this and we add pi thirds to it, we should get to a site, or this one, let's see, pi halves. So if we're here at pi halves, if we add pi thirds to it, you should get to a site where the sine of that, right, the sine of this is a half. And so these are two solutions. One is one's here at pi halves, and the other's here at negative pi sixths. Cool. Now the only problem is they gave us some more information. They said, hey, let's look at this from negative 3 pi to 3 pi. So I'm going to look at two cases with this. I'm going to take this and check out any time that I hit one of these sites, but going from negative 3 pi to 3 pi. So let's watch that happen. And I'm going to get rid of these for a second. and just look at when we start here at 0, right? I'm gonna first go from 0 to 3 pi and just count all the times that I hit this site or this site, right? So, and I've got to go to 3 pi, which is like, here's 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi. So I'm kind of going back here eventually. Okay, so this is my target, but I got to get past it twice. So here, that happens once at pi halves. No, boom, there's another one. This is no longer negative pi 6 because I'm going backwards, but it's, let's see, 12, 11 pi sixths. Yeah, and then we keep going, and here's another pi halves. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pi halves. And then we get to 3 pi, and there are no more. So these are solutions going from 0 to 3 pi. Let's look at the same thing going from, let's use a different color just so we can see it. Let's look at a different one going from 0 backwards to negative 3 pi. So we'd start here and we'd say, oh, here's one at negative pi sixths. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Here's one at negative 3 pi halves. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Here's another one at, let's see, this would be negative 12 pi 6, negative 13 pi sixths. And keep going, keep going, keep going. Cashed out at negative 3 pi. Okay, so there's our other set of solutions. Cool. So what that means is each one of these, if you took this and you added pi thirds to it, you'd get back to a site where your sine is. So if you took this value, plugged it in here for this, you added pi thirds to it, you'd get back to this site where the sine is half. Okay? So let's try that again with number 6G. Okay, so 6G looks like this. Let's see, we got 3 cosine of 2x plus 3 equals nothing, right? So we subtract a 3 from here, we divide this 3 out, so you really end up with cosine of 2x equals negative 1, right? If you need to pause me, that's fine to make sure that's the case, but I'm just going to remove this, and I'm going to move this up just to give us some space. So I know that I'm looking for a spot where the cosine of some angle is negative 1. Well, that sounds like here. Yeah? Sounds like pi. So the cosine of that is negative 1. However, they told us we were in a range from 0 to 3 pi. So this is where it's 1, and that's where it's 1 also. So you get 2 spots. You get theta can be pi, or theta can be 3 pi. Yeah? And again, we don't have theta, we have 2x. So I'm just going to take these and solve by saying, all right, let's let that be 2x. Let that be 2x. And so you end up with x being pi halves and x being 3 pi halves. Okay, so those seem like 2 solutions, and they're pretty good, but let's take a look at them a little more in depth. I want to take pi halves. When I put it back in here, I want to get my cosine of that. I want to double it and get my cosine to be 1. So here's pi halves. If I double it, yeah, here's 2 pi halves, and the cosine of this is 1. So this one works. This one too. Let's see. 3 pi halves. We're still here. If you double it, the cosine of that is 1 as well. Even though once you double it, it's out of range, right? It's out of our domain. So 3 pi halves. works also. Let's see, what else works? Oh, all right, check this out. So pi halves works, but we're going all the way to 3 pi. So I know that this site works. So as you go around twice, so we hit pi halves. Nope, 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 nope. So 1 pi halves, 2 pi halves. This 3 pi halves works because of this one. 4 pi halves, and then 5 pi halves works again. Sorry, I think I confused 3 pi halves as 5 pi halves, or 5 pi halves as 3 pi halves up here before. Okay, so there's your 3